This functions in exact the same way as the normal vanilla eye, but it allows you to locate even more different types of structures within the world. This basically makes use of the 1.16 command /locate, which physically just does exactly the same, but in a command fashion form. The perks of using this mod is the item is a lot more convenient, and it also has a text UI system where you can hold shift and right click to change the required structure which you wish to find. This basically includes every single type of structure, and there's 3 different variants, one which covers the overworld set of structures, one which covers the nether structures, which are currently 2 structures, and the end, which locates cities, which are currently the only ones which you can locate with this type of item. You can currently locate over 12 different overworld structures, and it's really useful to find villages or really rare things like ocean monuments. It's a really useful item, and it's fairly easy to craft with not too high of a ceiling in terms of the requirements which it wants you to have in terms of items. It will basically give you text on the screen which reads the amount of blocks away in terms of the distance you are from the structure, and the eye will rise in the sky and point in the right direction which you need to go to. It performs exactly like the normal eyes which locate strongholds, and you can actually use this to find strongholds too, so the original eyes are pretty obsolete and pointless to use now. This is more so a utility which is mainly coded for servers, so it's kind of pointless to use it on single player because it doesn't really give you any kinds of perks or positives from using it. It's not really that useful because the whole point of it is it's supposed to be a death counter which counts the amounts of deaths which each player has and compares them in a leaderboard style fashion. There's 2 different commands you can use, /DC or /death counter, and you're supposed to compare your amount of deaths to other players, basically to see how embarrassing it is the amount of times that you've died. It's fun to mess around with your friends, but as you can see when you're playing solo, there's really no purpose of having it whatsoever, but it's a nice cool little feature to access when you die or when you fall off a building, for an example. This one is another backpack add-on which basically enhances the amount of size your inventory has by offering a few different backpack types which you can craft. It basically allows you to carry things alongside with you whilst you're exploring, instead of just having tons of chests scattered around and cluttering everywhere nearby. This makes it really useful to travel with and explore dungeons with, and you can pair it together with different add-ons like baubles and curios and open them with keybinds. There's the standard backpack, iron, copper, gold, silver, diamond, and the most advanced, which is obsidian, and the higher the tier, the more space that you have, although it makes it a lot harder to make them. You can right click with shift to rename the backpacks and give them a fun name or just a useful name so you know what it contains if you have a few different ones for specific purposes, and you can just simply right click it to access the inventory of it, or right click another backpack within it to access the inventory of that. It's really simple to use, and there's multiple tiers depending how much things you actually want to store, which makes it super useful. Fishing is a pretty fun hobby, and it's not something which I've really partaken in much, I have to say, but one interesting thing which makes the fishing in the game more interesting is because they have updated it a few times in the past in the previous patches. My favourite feature is when the bubbles go towards the bait to let you know when you're actually going to catch something. Basically, this add-on mod lets you actually get buckets of fish through actually fishing. You basically use a bucket in the forehand slot and a rod, and when you catch something, it will fill the bucket. It's a nice little small feature which adds a fun new feature to the game. Forge is nice in the sense that it does actually have a mod list, unlike Fabric, which you need to get a mod for, but this basically is a mod to enhance and replace Forge's mod list with a more updated and modernized version with some more features. This makes it a little bit easier to search for installed mods, check for updates of pre-existing ones you have, submit bugs and see relevant information for those specific mods like the website, or access the config very easily. As you can see, it's pretty clean, the interface is a lot nicer, and it generally just appears a lot better than the default GUI for the mods menu, with a few different added features and perks. Personally, it doesn't really add or enhance too much, but it's definitely an upgrade in its own right. I like the 8-bit art style and the collection of randomized paintings which are in the game, which people seem to overlook and don't really place too much importance on. This is a little decoration mod which decides to give custom paintings a shot by bringing a new art style direction which is still complementary to the original style. Basically, it adds a range of 33 different paintings with a very vanilla fitting feel to them, which are added alongside the others and are completely randomized, and when you place a painting you could get one of these new ones. Some of them are 1x2, some of them are 2x1, and some of them are 1x3 or 2x3 large scale paintings. As you can see, they look pretty attractive, and you can see a few examples here along with some vanilla ones. The bag of Yurting is basically a powerful item which comes in a few different varieties that can be dyeable, upgradable, and basically it's an all-purpose portable storage tool which can basically suck up and replace a whole building or a yurt depending which style of build you have. Using it on an area of blocks will store all surrounding blocks into the bag, and the area of effect is in a cube shape and it's shown by the dimensions relative to the label of the item name. Now, there is already fences per se in the game which are accessible, and fence gates which you can use to create farm systems, but there's not really much in terms of stylized fences, walls and gate types, and the types on offer in terms of the current selection is pretty bleak and quite limited. But this adds a few new style vanilla fences, walls and gates of a few different kinds. There's at least 2 or 3 variants of each type, and it makes building a little bit more interesting to complement some builds. There's classic wooden picket fences, stockade fences, horse fences which are great for stables or farm and countryside builds, wired fences which does damage to players and spiders, and a few other more modernistic types. There's not really too much to say about this. It's basically a lightweight mod which adds a selection of different useful simple lamp blocks and lights which illuminate the outside or the interior locations. There's a selection of full block reactive lamps, half slab style rotatable lamps, small wall panel lamps and bulbs which you can hang upside down or upon walls vertically or horizontally, fixtures which can be placed on walls, ceilings and floors, waterlogged lamps, and a few different lighting strips which can be placed all around the perimeter of a set of walls on a base. There's a few different nice types here and they illuminate really well in the light, although I can't really say that they fit into the classical style because they look a little bit too modernistic. The tool belt is a really simple concept with baubles and curios compatibility that supports key bindings. It basically comes with 2 stock slots by default, but can be upgraded up to 9 slots by combining it with belt pouches and an anvil. You can basically use this utility to quick switch between different tools using the radial menu, which is part of the mod, which you hold the R key down to activate. This allows you to quickly switch between different tools on the go instead of scrolling, and it also prevents you having to clutter up your inventory by putting them all in the normal standard vanilla slots. This means you can carry more stuff and you can access important things on the go really quickly. It also has a white list and a black list for any items which you want to add to the tool belt or remove and block from people carrying in it. These items are also displayed upon players, which actually shows the first 2 slots inside the tool belt, and it also displays an actual belt on the player too.